Stop Ed, lower blood sugar and get rid of Ed by doing this. Hello everyone. Here is story about a man that changed his life. His hands shook as he reached for the glucose meter, the numbers flashing like a death sentence on the tiny screen, 320. Terence Matthews, once the king of Friday night basketball, had watched his life spiral into a nightmare of high blood sugar, relentless fatigue, and a secret shame he couldn't bring himself to utter, the nights when he tried and failed to be intimate with his wife. He was only 46, but his manhood felt like it had aged 100 years overnight. Doctors gave him pills that made him sick. Friends offered pity. But one desperate night, Terence found a decades-old journal in his late grandfather's attic, a handwritten relic filled with strange recipes and old folk wisdom that promised what modern medicine had failed to deliver. A natural way to lower blood sugar and banish the silent agony of erectile dysfunction. Buried within those yellowed pages were 3 foods so simple it felt like a cruel joke that he'd never heard of them before. Bitter melon, black seed, and pumpkin seeds. These humble ingredients were once prized by ancient warriors and tribal healers who understood what today's billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry prays you never find out, that these foods can slash blood sugar spikes, restore circulation, and unlock virility without the toxic side effects of prescription drugs. Terence began each day with a bitter melon smoothie, snacking on roasted pumpkin seeds instead of candy, and taking a teaspoon of black seed oil before bed. Within weeks, his blood sugar dropped by over 100 points. Even more shocking to him, and to his overjoyed wife, was the return of his morning vitality, the kind he hadn't felt since his 20s. But there was one mistake Terence didn't even know he was making, a mistake quietly killing millions of men and women who think they're doing everything right, skipping breakfast or loading up on carbs first thing in the morning. This one habit sets off a hormonal chain reaction, flooding your body with insulin, spiking your blood sugar, and strangling the circulation needed for a strong, lasting performance in the bedroom. By simply eating a protein-rich breakfast with these 3 blood sugar-crushing foods, Terence broke free from the cycle that had robbed him of his energy, his confidence, and nearly his marriage. Doctors scoff, Big Pharma trembles, and the food industry prays you stay addicted to sugar and empty calories. But the truth is out now. These 3 ancient foods, bitter melon, black seed, and pumpkin seeds, could change everything for the millions drowning in diabetes and the silent plague of erectile dysfunction. And for Terence, the discovery didn't just save his health. It saved his manhood, his marriage, and his life. Word spread like wildfire through Terence's neighborhood as his friends noticed the glow returning to his face, the spring in his step, the swagger that once made him the life of every block party. At first, they laughed off his talk of magic foods, dismissing bitter melon as some old man's nonsense and black seed oil as internet quackery. But one by one, these same skeptics found themselves knocking on his door, desperate for answers. Men too ashamed to speak openly about their failing stamina. Women worried sick over their husbands' soaring blood sugar and midnight trips to the bathroom. Terence told them the same simple truth that had saved him. Nature holds secrets more powerful than any overpriced prescription. They began to see the pattern the modern world wants everyone to ignore. The longer you live on boxed cereals, sugary coffee drinks, and carb-heavy meals, the faster your pancreas burns out, your blood sugar swings out of control, and your bedroom confidence fades to black. But when you introduce these 3 foods, you start to reverse decades of damage. Bitter melon's compounds mimic insulin, naturally lowering glucose levels with every sip or bite. Black seed oil, called the remedy for everything but death by ancient healers, improves blood flow, slashes inflammation, and nourishes the hormones that fuel both energy and desire. Pumpkin seeds flood the body with magnesium and zinc, minerals critical for controlling blood sugar and boosting testosterone. Within weeks, men who'd resigned themselves to a lifetime of limp disappointments and quiet embarrassment found themselves waking up ready for action. Women who feared losing their partners to diabetes-related complications saw color return to their husbands' cheeks and sparks reignite in their relationships. As for Terence, he realized the tragedy wasn't that these foods had been hidden. It was that generations had been tricked into thinking expensive pills and humiliating devices were their only options. In the end, it wasn't just a personal victory. It became a mission. Terence began hosting Saturday morning gatherings, teaching anyone willing to listen how to make bitter melon smoothies that actually tasted good, showing how a handful of pumpkin seeds could replace candy or chips, and explaining the powerful daily ritual of black seed oil. Word spread beyond his city, stories pouring in from men and women reclaiming their lives, their love, and their freedom from the blood sugar nightmare that nearly stole it all. The truth Terence uncovered wasn't some mystical fantasy. It was rooted in hard, undeniable science that modern research continues to confirm, even as most doctors gloss over it in favor of expensive treatments. Bitter melon, for instance, contains unique compounds like charantin, vicine, and polypeptide P, which studies have shown can mimic the effects of insulin and lower blood glucose levels naturally. One clinical trial published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology demonstrated that patients with type 2 diabetes experienced significant reductions in fasting blood sugar after taking bitter melon extract, proving it's more than just an old wives' tale. Then there's black seed oil, pressed from the tiny seeds of Nigella sativa. A review in Complementary Therapies in Medicine revealed that black seed oil supplementation reduced fasting blood sugar, improved insulin resistance, and lowered hemoglobin A1C levels in diabetic patients. Even more impressive are black seed oil's effects on circulation. By reducing oxidative stress and inflammation in blood vessels, it can help restore the flow needed for strong erections, offering hope to men struggling with the double burden of diabetes and erectile dysfunction. Pumpkin seeds are often dismissed as nothing more than crunchy salad toppings, but they're actually packed with magnesium and zinc, two minerals essential for both blood sugar control and sexual health. Magnesium has been shown in studies published in Diabetes Care to improve insulin sensitivity and lower the risk of type 2 diabetes complications. Meanwhile, zinc is crucial for testosterone production. Without enough of it, men can experience plummeting libido, weaker erections, and accelerated metabolic problems. But what's the catch? The biggest obstacle to these foods working their magic is the one habit Terence nearly died from: skipping or ruining breakfast. By starting the day with high-carb foods like pastries, sugary cereals, or even just coffee loaded with sweeteners, you send your blood sugar skyrocketing, which triggers massive insulin spikes. These swings don't just exhaust your pancreas, they constrict the tiny blood vessels in your penis, robbing you of the circulation needed for intimacy. Over time, the damage becomes so severe that no pill can fix it. Studies from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition show that high-protein, low-carb breakfasts stabilize blood sugar and improve energy and focus throughout the day, which is exactly why pairing these three foods with a proper morning meal can reset your metabolism and revive your performance. This isn't fringe science. It's the research Big Pharma doesn't want you to see, because there's no profit in telling you that a humble bitter melon, a drizzle of black seed oil, and a handful of pumpkin seeds can do what their overpriced drugs promise and fail to deliver. The evidence is clear. Start each day with protein and these three powerhouse foods, and you may finally break the cycle of high blood sugar and low bedroom confidence. The deeper you dig, the more shocking the cover-up becomes. For decades, medical journals have quietly published findings proving the power of these foods, yet few doctors mention them. A 2011 study in phytotherapy research showed bitter melon reduced blood sugar nearly as effectively as the diabetes drug glibenclamide in patients with type 2 diabetes, but without the dangerous side effects. Why doesn't every diabetic know this? Because bitter melon can't be patented, so no one stands to make billions off it. Black seed oil has an even longer history of miraculous results. In ancient Egypt, it was found sealed in King Tut's tomb, prized as a cure-all. Modern research backs this legend, showing black seed's thymoquinone fights inflammation at a cellular level. A 2013 study in the Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism confirmed black seed oil improved insulin sensitivity and reduced glucose absorption in the intestines. By keeping blood sugar from spiking after meals, black seed oil helps protect the delicate arteries that supply blood to vital organs, including the penis. Pumpkin seeds round out this trinity of natural medicine with their unmatched nutritional punch. Just a quarter cup provides nearly half your daily magnesium needs, which is critical since studies show 75% of adults don't get enough magnesium. And magnesium deficiency is directly linked to insulin resistance and erectile dysfunction. In research from the Journal of Sexual Medicine, men with higher magnesium levels had better testosterone production and improved erectile function, underscoring how essential these little seeds are for both blood sugar control and sexual health. Yet none of this matters if you keep sabotaging yourself each morning. Most people skip breakfast or eat sugar-laden junk, setting their metabolism on a disastrous course for the day. Every time your blood sugar spikes at breakfast, it causes oxidative stress that damages blood vessels and inflames nerves, which not only worsens diabetes, but weakens erections by starving penile tissue of oxygen. Worse still, repeated blood sugar spikes cause your body to overproduce insulin, leading to insulin resistance, the root cause of type 2 diabetes and a death sentence for healthy circulation. It's no exaggeration to say this one habit, what you do in the first hour of your day, can make the difference between a life of energy, confidence, and passion, or one of chronic fatigue, fear, and quiet humiliation. By swapping that syrupy coffee and donut for a protein-packed meal with bitter melon, black seed oil, and pumpkin seeds, you're not just managing your blood sugar, you're giving your body the chance to heal itself, to restore circulation, and to reclaim the vitality you thought was lost forever. Terence's story became a rallying cry for countless others trapped in the same downward spiral. Word of his transformation inspired local men's groups, church gatherings, and even social media circles dedicated to natural health. Soon, people from all walks of life were reporting the same miraculous turnarounds. Fasting blood sugar levels dropping by double digits, nights of restless sleep replaced with peaceful rest, and an unexpected revival of their romantic lives. What shocked them most wasn't that it worked, but that no one had told them sooner. Mainstream medicine still refuses to acknowledge the link between diet, blood sugar, and erectile dysfunction. Instead, it offers band-aid solutions, prescription pills that temporarily force an erection but do nothing to heal the underlying cause, or insulin injections that control sugar but fail to reverse insulin resistance. Meanwhile, these three foods go after the real problem. Bitter melon encourages your body to use glucose efficiently. Black seed oil fights the inflammation that silently destroys blood vessels, and pumpkin seeds provide minerals that reawaken hormone production and stabilize your metabolism. Even researchers who publish on these topics admit there's little incentive for widespread education. Pharmaceutical companies thrive on endless prescriptions, and sugary breakfast foods rake in billions each year from people desperate for convenience. But the consequences of ignoring the truth are deadly. According to the CDC, diabetes is a leading cause of death in America, with complications like heart disease, kidney failure, blindness, and amputations stealing lives prematurely. Erectile dysfunction isn't just an embarrassment. It's often the first warning sign of cardiovascular disease and impending diabetic complications. What Terence and others discovered is that by taking control of your morning ritual, you rewrite your health story. Replacing processed cereals with a hearty egg scramble or protein shake, adding bitter melon to a smoothie, tossing pumpkin seeds over a Greek yogurt, or simply swallowing a teaspoon of black seed oil. These simple actions can mean the difference between a life shackled to medications and a future of vibrant health and intimacy. Doctors may roll their eyes, but the mounting testimonies speak louder than any skeptical voice. Men who once dreaded bedtime because they knew disappointment awaited now celebrate restored intimacy. Women who worried they'd lose their husbands to the slow-motion death of diabetes now watch them grow stronger and more confident each day. And Terence? He's not just alive, he's thriving, leading a community determined to share the ancient wisdom modern medicine tried to bury. As the weeks passed, Terence's Saturday gatherings grew from a handful of curious neighbors to standing room-only events. People drove hours, desperate to break free from the same cycle of prescriptions and disappointment that had nearly cost him everything. With every new face came stories of suffering, men who hadn't felt truly alive in years, women who feared for their partners' lives, and parents terrified of passing down a legacy of diabetes to their children. But through it all, the solution remained shockingly simple and profoundly powerful. What set these three foods apart wasn't just their nutritional profiles, but the way they worked together to reset the body's broken systems. Bitter melon's natural insulin-mimicking compounds help cells absorb sugar before it could accumulate in the blood, slashing the highs and lows that destroy nerves and blood vessels. Black seed oil's thymoquinone targeted inflammation like a heat-seeking missile, repairing the microscopic damage that blocks blood flow not just to the heart, but to the most delicate areas needed for intimacy. And pumpkin seeds supplied the magnesium and zinc essential for hormone balance, energy production, and strong circulation. One man who attended Terence's workshop shared how his fasting blood sugar had hovered over 250 for years despite strict medications. After adding bitter melon tea and pumpkin seeds to his breakfasts and taking a daily teaspoon of black seed oil, he watched his morning readings plummet to the 140s within a month, something his doctor had told him was impossible without doubling his insulin dose. Another man, who had resigned himself to a sexless marriage, found himself waking up with the kind of vigor he hadn't experienced since his 20s, his marriage renewed with passion and gratitude. Scientific research continued to confirm these miracles weren't flukes. Bitter melon's charantin and polypeptide P were shown in multiple studies to activate AMPK, a cellular enzyme that tells the body to burn glucose for energy instead of letting it linger dangerously in the bloodstream. Black seed oil's compounds not only reduce inflammation, but also lower LDL cholesterol and triglycerides, both of which contribute to blood vessel damage. Pumpkin seeds' high magnesium content was repeatedly linked in journals like Diabetes and Metabolic Syndrome to reduced risk of insulin resistance and better sexual health outcomes. These weren't folk remedies hoping for a placebo effect. They were time-tested, research-backed solutions hiding in plain sight while millions suffer needlessly. For Terence, it was never about selling some miracle cure, but about revealing a truth that could set people free from the endless hamster wheel of modern medicine's treatments that never truly heal. And as more lives changed, a quiet revolution began. Men standing taller, families growing stronger, and communities rediscovering the healing power of the foods the modern world taught them to ignore. The transformation spreading from Terence's small gatherings soon felt unstoppable, like a ripple of hope breaking through a tide of despair. Couples who'd stopped sharing the same bed years ago began to reclaim the intimacy that once held them together. Fathers who'd grown too tired to play with their kids found themselves bursting with energy, eager to chase their children across parks and playgrounds. Even skeptical doctors began to take notice as patient after patient returned for checkups with dramatically improved blood sugar readings, often asking what new medication they'd started, only to hear the answer wasn't a prescription, but a plate of humble, healing foods. Stories poured in from beyond Terence's neighborhood. Men in their 50s and 60s, whose lives revolved around testing strips and insulin pens, wrote letters describing how they finally felt in control again, waking up each day with stable energy instead of crushing fatigue. Wives who'd long mourned the fading spark in their marriages wept with joy over the return of shared mornings and whispered nights. And adult children, terrified of inheriting their parents' chronic illnesses, discovered they could break the cycle before it began by embracing these three foods and avoiding the deadly mistake of sugary breakfasts. What made this movement so powerful wasn't just the individual successes, but the collective realization that nearly everything they'd been taught about managing blood sugar and erectile dysfunction was backward. They learned that skipping breakfast or eating a carb-heavy one trains your body to spike insulin repeatedly, wearing down your pancreas like sandpaper. They discovered how inflammation, fueled by processed foods and refined sugars, acts like acid on blood vessels, slowly choking off circulation to the places where it matters most for men. And they finally saw how restoring proper minerals like magnesium and zinc wasn't just about avoiding diabetes complications, it was about reclaiming manhood, confidence, and joy. The more people learned, the angrier they became at how these simple truths had been buried by industries more interested in lifelong customers than in healing. But anger turned to action. Barbershops began swapping donuts for pumpkin seed snack bowls. Local cafes added bitter melon smoothies to their menus, and churches invited Terence to speak during men's health events, determined to spread the word. Men who had once gathered to swap stories of shared defeat now formed alliances of hope, encouraging each other to stick with the simple plan that had saved them. In a world drowning in quick fixes and empty promises, the power of bitter melon, black seed, and pumpkin seeds rose as a beacon of real, lasting change. A chance to step off the treadmill of suffering and reclaim a life filled with strength, passion, and freedom. Medical disclaimer. This video essay is provided for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content reflects general health information and personal stories that may not apply to everyone. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before starting any new dietary, nutritional, or lifestyle program, especially if you have existing health conditions or take prescription medications. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking care because of information read here. Individual results may vary, and no specific outcome is guaranteed. Viewer discretion is advised, and readers are encouraged to make informed decisions in partnership with their healthcare providers.